Good morning and welcome to Marjorie's Table on this 25th of June. Um, I want to make a quick announcement for those of you who are watching the recording. I've already said it to those who are live, but for the next 2 weeks, I'm on holiday and I've taken the difficult decision, but I think the right one, to actually just be away and not bring my computer with me and have a holiday. I'm notorious for not always stepping away when I'm on holiday. So I'm going to do that. What I have done is set up a couple of sets of prompts to drop into your inbox at 7 a.m. on the Wednesday. You will not get the link as usual on the Monday because there isn't a link. But on Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. British time, uh, an email will drop into your box that has a couple of recordings of poets to look at and think about, and they are linked in some ways to today's session, kind of a further on, so that if those of you who really like writing on a Wednesday morning can keep writing. And I will be back. I will look at the date. I think it's the 2nd and 9th of July that I'm away. So 7 plus that must be the 16th of July. I'll be back live with you then. So you'll get the email for the link on the 16th, on the 14th, as usual. But I'm away the next couple of weeks. Let me know, maybe if you can, how you got on with that, and if it worked out well for you. I was just curious what to do when I'm away because inevitably I will be away some weeks of the year. So hopefully that works for you. Okay, without further ado, we're going to do what we always do in these sessions. We'll do a quick warm up. We're going to look at 3 poems today by Young Lee, one of my favorite American poets. We will not be looking at an Iranian poet again this week, um, despite my, you know, feeling that maybe we should, but I thought maybe it's a bit too close to the bone for certainly for me and maybe for some of you too. Maybe when things settle, and hopefully they will in that part of the world, we can go back and I can show you again some more recent or living Persian poets, or maybe even some who aren't around anymore. But for now, we're going to look at Li Young Lee. But before we do that, we're going to do the usual thing that we do. We're going to do a quick warm up. Usual way of doing that. Write a definition, write a list of words, write whatever comes to mind for 2 separate words. Today, the first word is cling, as in cling film, cling. We now swap and do release. And if and when you're ready, maybe just share 2 or 3 or 4 of those words that you like the sound of in the chat box. And this is the moment where you should also be spying for other words that you might like. I'll read those out as they start to come in. Here we go. Gosh, there's lots. Needy, skirt, run, grasp, glob, ball, lungs, monkey, breath, blend, possum, beautiful word, clutch, loose, encompass, beautiful, hold fast, another stunning word, grip, embrace, suction, drift away, tendrils, desperate, climbing, the child's arms wrapped around its mother's legs, beautiful, lifeboat, freeing, flee, fright, flight, loosen, cleave, unclasp, hold close, burnt porridge. I love how that got in there, Philippa. Fly away, freedom, jurisdiction, so many small fingers, a clenched fist opening, beautiful image. Might try that one this morning. Fold over, let go, complexion, baby, strange, bell, and clench. Okay, so many beautiful words. So hopefully you've stolen some of the others. The idea here, as ever, is to try and work one or two of these words into your writing this morning. Even better if it's someone else's word, because that often makes us do things that we don't expect or write in directions that we don't expect in our writing, which is great. So here's the first. Can you see that? Hopefully you can see Lee Young Lee's poem. I'm going to pop the link to it in the chat box. This is a poem that I wasn't that familiar with, so I thought it would be interesting for us to look at it together. It has a very interesting note, but let's listen to it first, and then maybe we can talk about it, give ideas about it. Please do pop what you think about it into the chat box, and then we can discuss it. Big Clock. Tried to cut off the advert this morning.
We hope you enjoyed today's offering,
But I didn't
selected by
manage it.
Ilya
Cut off the
Kaminsky,
first one.
author of Deaf Republic and Poem a Day guest editor for the month of December, brought to you by the Academy of American Poets.
Hello, my name is Lee Young Lee. I'm going to read this poem called Big Clock. When the big clock at the train station stopped, the leaves kept falling, the trains kept running. My mother's hair kept growing longer and blacker, and my father's body kept filling up with time. I can't see the year on the station's calendar. We slept under the stopped hands of the clock until morning, when a man entered carrying a ladder. He climbed up to the clock's face and opened it with a key. No one but he knew what he saw. Below him, the mortal faces went on passing toward all compass points. People went on crossing borders, buying tickets in one time zone and setting foot in another, crossing thresholds, sleep to waking and back, waiting room to moving train and back, war zone to safe zone and back, crossing between gain and loss, learning new words for the world and the things in it, forgetting old words for the heart and the things in it, and collecting words in a different language for those three primary colors: staying, leaving, and returning. And only the man at the top of the ladder understood what he saw behind the face, which was neither smiling nor frowning. And my father's body went on filling up with death until it reached the highest etched mark of his eyes and spilled into mine. And my mother's hair goes on, never reaching the earth.
Just going to stop him before he reads that note. Interesting how differently he reads it than so many of the poets that we've listened to on this workshop. I'm always curious to see how they do it. And here he's so slow and deliberate, which is interesting, of course, because it's a poem about time. The comment that I had about it was, when I was thinking about how we begin and edit poems, it's interesting, this sort of 3-line stanza at the end of this poem feels like a natural ending. And he does this thing of circling back to the man on the ladder. And it feels like a really beautiful way to end. And yet he goes back to the body. He goes back to the father's body, filling up with death, as it were, and his mother's body, her hair growing. And so it's that comment for me that I almost always make about specificity. This image, the man is harder to grasp at the end, top of the ladder, not smiling or frowning. We're not sure what he's looking at. And so the decision to leave it with something that we can actually specifically see, hair growing, that doesn't leave the earth is really interesting and I think works beautifully. The other thing that I noticed as he read it is up towards the top. So many of the sort of phrases end at the line end. And then when you get towards the bottom, he's starting to break them up, which is interesting. Um, Here, the highest etched mark of his eyes. And my mother's hair goes on, never reaching the earth. Not quite enjambment, but it definitely is a breaking of phrases in a way that we don't see at the top of the poem. And I think that has a kind of tumbling sense, as I've talked about before, tumbling us into the poem, allowing us to lean in or asking us to lean in a bit harder, which is an interesting decision again towards the end of the poem. I'm going to look at your comments. Momentum, Leah, I agree. A lot of momentum, even despite the way he reads it. Hair goes on, which is really interesting. Yeah, I love that line about Becca, the body filling up with time. And then I think clarifying it later, filling up with death. Just, and it's interesting because that's a moment where it's just in case you didn't get it in the beginning, I'm going to tell you what I meant, which I think is interesting to come back to. Um, Yeah, I think it's beautifully and deliberately read as well, Mags. I think at times as poets, we're almost apologetic for our words and we rush through them, and he's not doing that. Again, Janet, I agree that the last line could be that we don't see where time goes, but also if you read the note, it's interesting because Lee Young says that the poem is about time and they think it's unsuccessful, which I think is really beautiful. So if you're ever feeling like you've got a failed poem, read this note because Lee Young feels like it's a failed poem in many ways, but that almost all poems are failing in trying to get across what they're doing it. I agree, Mary. Something about the slow reading really helps us or is mesmerizing. Um, and PG, I agree that it could be about grief as well. That idea as things continue. But his mother also fills with death, and that's poured over into him is a really beautiful image. Okay, I'm going to stop talking because I've got 3 of Lee Young's poems that I want us to look at this morning. Um, Timely, Barbara, your comment about staying, leaving, and returning, because that's one of the prompts. The first one is to write about a time when time stopped for you, or a clock stopped for you, or however you want to see it here. He's using that clock in a train station as a metaphor, but when time stopped or a clock stopped or something. The other option is to write about staying, leaving, returning, however that comes, using those 3 words. You've got a stack of beautiful words to get into your writing this morning. It's 45 minutes past. I'll bring us back 1 or 2 minutes past 50, so 51, 52, to look at the second poem together. I'll pop that all in the chat box and be back in 7 minutes max. Just another 30 seconds or so on that one. Okay. I've popped the link to the next poem in the chat box, and I'm going to have a quick read of it and send you away to work on another prompt before we finish off. This one is the gift. To pull the metal splinter from my palm, my father recited a story in a low voice. I watched his lovely face and not the blade. Before the story ended, he'd remove the iron sliver I thought I'd die from. I can't remember the tale, but hear his voice still, a well of dark water, a prayer. And I recall his hands, 2 measures of tenderness he laid against my face, the flames of discipline he raised above my head. Had you entered that afternoon, you would have thought you saw a man planting something in a boy's palm, a silver tear, a tiny flame. Had you followed that boy, you would have arrived here, where I bend over my wife's right hand. Look how I shave her thumbnail down so carefully she feels no pain. Watch as I lift the splinter out. I was 7 when my father took my hand like this, and I did not hold that shard between my fingers and think, metal that will bury me. Christen it little assassin, or going deep for my heart. And I did not lift up my wound and cry, death visited here. I did what a child does when he's given something to keep. I kissed my father. So, in response to this, maybe have 4 minutes or so, or 5 max, writing about a time when you were physically close to someone working on a task or working together at something, or in this case, having someone do something to you. But that idea of physicality, that intensity of 2 bodies working on something together, or as in this poem, very near to each other, or even touching each other, however that comes for you. Just give you another 30 seconds before I read us out of the room. Okay, here we go. This is a poem that's probably, I think, Young's best known poem, and you'll see why. Yeah, let me just read it for us. From Blossoms. From Blossoms comes this brown paper bag of peaches we bought from the boy at the bend in the road where we turned towards signs painted peaches. From laden boughs, from hands, from sweet fellowship in the bins, comes nectar at the roadside, succulent peaches we devour, dusky skin and all, comes the familiar dust of summer, dust we eat. Oh, to take what we love inside, to carry within us an orchard, to eat not only the skin, but the shade, not only the sugar, but the days, to hold the fruit in our hands, adore it, then bite into the round jubilance of a peach. There are days we live as if death were nowhere in the background, from joy to joy to joy, from wing to wing, from blossom to impossible blossom, to sweet, impossible blossom. I will leave you with that beauty and send on the links for these poems. Next week, as I say, on Wednesday morning, I've popped something to drop into your email box that will link to Leon's poems from this week and give you a couple of prompts to write to if you so desire. You're also welcome to take those 2 weeks off. But I hope you've enjoyed exploring a couple of other Lee Young's other poems, and I hope you have a great couple of weeks. Thanks for being here with me this morning. It's been a real joy to write with 35 of you this morning. Bravo for being up so early, and see you again mid-July. Bye, everyone. Have a great couple of weeks. I hope the sun shines wherever you are.